السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معكم الأستاذ أسامة من مجموعة الواتن الدولية. اليوم إن شاء الله نستكمل درسنا في برنامج الأفتر إفكت. هذا الدرس أعتقد أنه هو آخر درس في هذه المادة، مادة الجرافيك ديزاين. صراحة يعني إنه قطعنا مشوار كتير كبير. أخذنا برنامج الإن ديزاين مع بعض، برنامج الفوتوشوب والأدوبي ما أخذنا، بس أخذنا برنامج الإن ديزاين، وبعدها أخذنا برنامج البريمير، بعدها أخذنا برنامج الأفتر إفكت. فإحنا حاليا في آخر محاضرة في برنامج الأفتر إفكت. آه رح نحاول إنه نلم ونشوف شو هو برنامج الأفتر إفكت، يعني نلم اللي أخذناه كلياته. إحنا أخذنا كتير أشياء. أخذنا أول شيء أساسيات البرنامج، هذا أهم شيء أخذنا. هو أول شيء أساسيات البرنامج. بس خليني أتأكد إن أنا عم سوي شير سكرين. أوكي، وكمان عم سوي ريكورد. أيوة عم سوي ريكورد، تمام. نحن أول شيء أخذنا أساسيات البرنامج. أخذنا الواجهة اللي قدامنا هاي في الورك سبيس، الواجهة الرئيسية أول ما نحن نضغط على البرنامج. أخذنا كمان لما نفتح البرنامج نيو بروجكت، هاي الصفحة كلياتها أخذناها وفصلناها بالتفصيل الممل، واحدة واحدة، بحيث إنه نحن نشوف كيف ممكن انه نشتغل بعد ما يعني بعد ما تعلمنا كيف ممكن نشتغل. ولكن مثل ما بنعرف برنامج الافتر افكت برنامج جدا كبير، برنامج جدا واسع. يعني ما رح نحسن انه نحن ننمي البرنامج بنسبة 100%، لأنه البرنامج مثل ما بنعرف كثير كثير كبير، وفيه كثير أشياء، يعني فيه كثير أشياء واسعة وكبيرة. فأخذنا الأشياء المهمة، أخذنا الواجهة الورك سبيس هاي اللي عنا عم نشوفها. أخذنا كمان كيف ممكن نحن نضيف صوت وصورة، كيف ممكن نحن نقطع، وكيف ممكن نحن نحرك العناصر اللي عنا. بالإضافة كمان نحن أخذنا الأشياء أوسع، أخذنا عن الإضاءة، عن التصوير. وكمان هلا كمان إن شاء الله رح نستكمل درسنا في الإضاءة والتصوير. امبارح أخذنا درس جدا 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 مهم، كتير كتير مهم. أخذنا امبارح درس في في الإضاءة. أعطيناكم ثمان خطوات. إذا أنتم سنتوا إنكم تطبقوا الثمان خطوات راح تحسنوا إنكم آه، راح تحسنوا إنكم يعني تخدموا الإضاءة بشكل جدا جدا رهيب. بس ده اوكي. فحتستخدموها إذا انت عرفتوا تستخدموا الثمان خطوات راح تعرفوا انكم كيف تلعبوا بالاضاءة. فالاضاءة عن جد جد جدا شيء كثير مهم. فامبارح اخذنا درس عن الاضاءة ودرس عن التصوير، فاليوم ان شاء الله حنحاول نستكمل موضوعنا في هذا الشيء بإذن الله تعالى. تمام، خلينا نفوت على جوجل بس ثواني. نفوت على يوتيوب. لا، لأنه هو الدرس عنا. انا ماني منزل البرنامج صراحة. ماني منزل الفيديو. الفيديو وين كان؟ هون. اه، هذا هو. هلا حناخد عن الكلر، هناخد درس عن الكلر، انه عن الالوان، كيف ممكن الواحد انه يلعب بالوان الفيديو. هذا شيء جدا جدا مهم. خلينا نسوي شير سكرين بالاول.
Hey guys, Justice here with Tomorrow'sFilmmakers.com, the largest online film academy in the world, and today we're going to be talking about cinematic color.
cinematic يعني الألوان السينمائية.
Now, if you haven't seen our other videos on cinematic composition, cinematic lighting, and cinematic movement, definitely go check those out because I think those would be really helpful for you guys to watch and understand more about cinematography. But today I want to talk about something that isn't talked about nearly as much as it should, and that is cinematic color in your storytelling. Now, did you know that you can make an audience feel a certain way just by showing a color? It could be the color of a light, the color of a jacket, a car, even the atmosphere around them. All of these can communicate a message. So in this lesson, we're going to show you how they use color in Hollywood today, and also how you can use color in your projects. But if you enjoy these lessons and you'd like to learn even more, you can check out our full academy at tomorrowsfilmmakers.com. We have over 1,000 training videos and over 100 hours of content on every single filmmaking subject you can imagine, just like this. We have had over 10,000 students join our academy and they are loving it. And right now we are doing something we have never done before, and we are running an insane sale of only $97 for our lifetime membership to our award-winning online film course. So if you want to take your filmmaking to an entirely new level and learn all about filmmaking from professionals in the industry, click the link in the description and head on over to tomorrowsfilmmakers.com to learn more. But with that being said, how can color tell a story? Or more importantly, what is the purpose of color in your films? You would think that
عم يقول كيف إنه ممكن مجرد إنك تلعب بالألوان، كيف إنه هذا الشيء ممكن يحكي قصة. كيف إنك أنت إذا بدك تلعب بالألوان، كيف إنه هذا الشيء ممكن يحكي قصة كاملة عن الفيديو تبعك أو عن المشهد تبعك.
every single color would have a specific feeling that is universally used that way. Orange is nice and warm and gives a homey kind of feel, while blue is very cool and can be used to show danger or some other emotion. And while that may be true to a degree, if you establish a color to mean something at the beginning of a film, the audience will subconsciously feel that way when you show the color again. So if we establish that warm is bad and blue is good, when warm color comes on the screen, the audience will start to feel uneasy without knowing exactly why. And that's the beauty of color in a film. It's not supposed to be noticed. The color in your films is purposeful, but should never be noticed. Now, what do I mean by this? So let's just take a color that has importance in a film. Now, like him or not, M. Night Shyamalan is a master of color in film and has always used the color red to show something significant in his films. If something major is about to happen, the color red is always present. A red doorknob, a red shirt, red balloon. There is significance in the color red.
You would notice that there were little clues along the way, and one of them was with the color red.
We use the color red to indicate anything in the real world that has been tainted by the other world.
So since he's established that color as significant, the rest of the films are surprisingly absent of the color red. Why is that? Because the color red is only used for something significant. If it was just throughout the rest of the movie, the audience would be confused.
Anytime there was red by mistake, I was like, get it out, get it out.
Now, in his fourth film, The Village, he uses the color red to an extreme. There are creatures in the woods that are attracted to the color red, so everyone always wears the color yellow. When you see red, you automatically feel scared and concerned because they're holding the bad color.
This color attracts those we don't speak of. You must bury it.
Now, this is an obvious example because even in the film, they bring attention to a certain color being bad. But what about a film that doesn't bring attention to itself? Let's take two projects about plagues and disease and see how they handle color. Contagion versus Chernobyl. One is a movie and one is a miniseries, but they both deal with sickness, illness, and disease, and I absolutely love both of them. But if we look at Contagion, we can see right at the beginning that anytime someone has the disease, it's a strong yellow color. And not just a nice yellow, but a sick caution tape kind of yellow. If scientists handle the disease, the suits are yellow. If it shows someone coughing, there's a yellow environment. The director establishes right from the beginning that yellow is a bad color. But when someone doesn't have the sickness, it's bluer than anything you have ever seen before. And why is there such a contrast? Because the movie establishes right at the beginning that yellow is dangerous and blue is safe. And once you establish that, you can let the audience know if something is safe or not just by making it a certain color. When the vaccine comes out, the wrist strap that everyone gets after you take the shot is blue, signifying that the vaccine here is safe. If the wrist strap was yellow, we would automatically feel like the vaccine might not work or was even some sort of fake. And all of this emotion is just by the color of the wrist strap. The color of the wrist strap gives you all these emotions because we have established the color from the very beginning. If we take Chernobyl, they establish right at the beginning that green is bad. Anytime radiation is present, there is a green tint throughout the entire scene. When our main character thinks everything is fine, it's normal colors, and whenever he reads about the radiation leak, the color immediately turns green, a sickly, gross green. So green is dangerous and blue is safe. And again, once we establish those colors, we can continue to show the audience what is safe and what is not. The hazmat suits are green, signifying radiation. When she visits her husband in the hospital, the curtains are a nice white, but whenever he is dying of radiation, the curtain becomes an eerie green. The sanitation trucks that clean the radiation, they are blue, signifying that this is safe. The captain, who wears green for the entire runtime, has to convince a group of men to move radioactive rocks from the roof. While he's doing that, he's wearing green. When the job is finished, all of a sudden he's wearing blue. This shows the audience that the job they're about to do is dangerous, and then whenever it is done, the danger is now over and it is safe. 3 men are tasked with disposing of radioactive animals, and the truck they drive is blue, which is safe, yet the truck bed with all the radioactive animals is green. This two-tone color of this truck was not by accident. It's showing us that in the cab is safe and whatever is in the back is not. Both of these films communicate danger and safety to the audience by establishing dangerous and safe colors at the beginning and using them throughout the entire runtime. But like I said at the beginning, the thing I love about color in film is that yes, I'm bringing attention to it, but when you watch it, this is not something that you ever notice. This is a subconscious message communicated to the audience. So when the audience sees someone walk into a green room in Chernobyl, they don't think, there's green in this room, he should get out of there. Instead, they think, it's dangerous, he should get out of there. And the audience doesn't know exactly why they know there is danger in this room, but they just know it isn't safe. And we know it's because the director has established a good and bad color, and we are showing the audience the bad color in this room. This is not something the audience is aware of, but subconsciously this information is fed to the audience and determines exactly how they feel. Now, a franchise like Star Wars is an obvious example of the battle of colors, red versus blue, and we always know who is good and who is bad. In The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams uses these two colors to visually show the inner struggle of Kylo Ren. As Kylo is trying to figure out what he should do and the decision he needs to make, we as the audience see the struggle visually with red and blue on either side of his face. When he finally makes his decision, we know what decision has been made before anything happens because the blue light fades away and we are left with nothing but red. Again, subconsciously giving the audience the information they need without the audience knowing. And color in film doesn't just have to be good or bad color. You can have a character associated with a color. This character is associated with blue, and this character is always associated with orange. When you see the two mix, you know that these two characters' paths are about to cross. In The Godfather, the color orange is always used to associate death. Not red, not blue, but orange. So before someone dies, the color orange is always present. And sometimes it's an overall hue to the scene, and sometimes it's more subtle, like actual oranges spilling across the frame whenever someone dies. In Breaking Bad, our main character, Walt, is always wearing bright colors at the beginning of the show. But towards the end of the show, as Walt starts to become more and more wicked, his colors start to get darker and darker. And in a very famous scene where he reveals the true nature to his wife and how dangerous he really is, he removes his red overshirt to reveal an even darker red undershirt, a visual representation of the darkness hiding underneath his already dark exterior. And all we have done is change the color of his clothing. In the movie Her, when our main character falls in love.
طبعا هذا المشهد اللي قبل شوي شافوه، اللي قبل شوي ظهره، هذا مشهد ببرنامج أو ببرنامج اسمه، مو برنامج، هو مسلسل اسمه بريكنج باد. الألوان فيه جدا جدا جميلة، وجدا الإعدادات الألوان جدا يعني إنه كتير كتير جميلة. فهذا البرنامج مثل ما أنا حكيت لكم اسمه بريكنج باد. فمن هذا البرنامج مستخلصين برنامجين تانيين مرتبطين كلهم ببعض، فالثلاث برامج هدول كلهم من نفس الالوان. فلما انت تشوف البرنامج الاول وتشوف البرنامج الثاني، او المسلسل الاول لما تشوف المسلسل الاول والثاني والثالث، بتحسهم كلهم نفس المسلسل. ليش؟ لانهم نفس الالوان. فهذا الشيء جدا جدا ممتاز، جدا شيء رهيب، انصحكم تشوفوه صراحه. خلينا نكمل.
Dangerous he really is, he removes his red overshirt to reveal an even darker red undershirt, a visual representation of the darkness hiding underneath his already dark exterior. And all we have done is change the color of his clothing. In the movie Her, when our main character falls in love with an operating system named Samantha, the color red is always used to represent their relationship. Samantha is the color red, and when Theodore is around her or falling in love with her, he is wearing red or there is red around him. This represents that this operating system that he is in love with is affecting every part of his life, and he's not able to get away from it. When he finally realizes that many people are also experiencing what he is experiencing, we start to see others with that same red in their clothing. And when Theodore finally does get rid of Samantha, red is now absent from his life, and not only does he feel free, but we as the audience feels free. Red represents Samantha, and when our character is free from her, red is gone. But what about not just a certain color in clothing, but the absence of color, or more, the absence of saturation in clothing? In Secret Window, our main character and his wife are going through a terrible divorce, and they have lost all joy in life. So every piece of clothing that they have is faded and void of color. When they stand next to someone else, they stand out because their clothes are so faded. And this was done on purpose.
Press pause on imagining. Press play on your future. Make It Bright is back with the 5th edition. Are you a student or recent graduate? Get ready to join an amazing worldwide competition. Reboot your knowledge. Reboot your skills. Reboot your POV. Mindset. This year, take the player's seat and compete to access the Reboot Camp. 1 week in London. An immersive experience featuring workshops, trainings, mentors, and so much more. Now is your chance to join JTI.
Working with the color, the mid-tone color, kind of color that they were very strong, but they fade down like under the sun. It's a kind of twilight zone. Everything is loose, everything is fade, and compared to the flashback and compared to the other character, where the color is more bright, more colorful, more happy.
You can even take color a step further and have a certain color represent something our main character is searching for. A well-known example is in Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve has stated that the color yellow represents the truth our main character is looking for. And the color yellow becomes more and more frequent as our character comes closer to the truth. From a yellow flower to a small light.
طبعا هذا مسلسل اسمه تشيرنوبل، بيحكي عن فاجعة تشيرنوبل بأوكرانيا. مثل إذا بتعرفوها السامعين فيها، هاي الفاجعة أو هذا الشيء الحدث اللي صار هو مصنع إشعاع نووي، بيصير فيه حريق أو بيصير فيه انفجار على ما أعتقد. بتتسرب الأشعة على كل المنطقة. اسم المنطقة طبعا هو اسم المدينة، اسم مدينة تشيرنوبل. فلهذا السبب سموا البرنامج أو سموا الفاجعة فاجعة تشيرنوبل. فسووا عن هذا الفاجعة، سووا لها فيلم أو نعم فيلم، مسلسل ولا فيلم كان؟ أعتقد فيلم. هذا فيلم يمكن مو مسلسل. فسووا له فيلم اسمه مثلا فيلم اسمه تشيرنوبل، فيكم تشوفوه على نتفليكس أو على أي برنامج عندكم بيطالع على أفلام. كتير كتير الفيلم حلو، بيطالع لك إنه بيورجيك كيف صارت الفاجعة، وحتى كمان الإضاءات فيه كتير جميلة، وكمان التصوير فيه عن جد الإضاءة والفلاتر، الألوان زائد الإضاءة كتير 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 لعبانين دور. فبنصحكم تشوفوه، هو كتير مناسب للدرس اللي احنا قاعدين هلا عم ناخده. حتى يعني حتى والدليل على هاد كيف بالفيديو هاد كيف أعطانا مثال عن الفيلم نفسه. خلينا نكمل.
in another room, or a small yellow light in the room where he is discovering more
صح،
truth.
شايفين كيف
And towards
عاطيه ورا هيك شوية. هذا الضوء جدا مهم بالإضاءات، مثل ما امبارح أخذنا.
the end of the film, when he finally finds what he's looking for, the entire scene is yellow, representing that he has finally found the truth he was searching for throughout the entire film. So as you can see, color is used in storytelling all the time, and it doesn't just need to be an overall wash of the image. It can be a specific item, a light through a window, an article of clothing, or even the absence of color in clothing. And to use color in your films is very simple. Just establish the color scheme at the beginning of the film and carry that throughout the entire project. If you choose blue as a bad color, then have your villain wear some sort of blue, or maybe when something bad happens, there's a blue light in the background. Establish the color at the beginning of the film, and then you are able to subconsciously make the audience feel a certain way without saying anything and without the audience even knowing about it. So I hope that you guys have really enjoyed this video and has helped you guys out on how to use color in your films to communicate to the audience. If you'd like to learn every single aspect of filmmaking, you could check out our full academy at tomorrowsfilmmakers.com. We have over 1,000 training videos and over 100 hours of content on every single filmmaking subject that you can imagine. If you want to go into the production side with weddings, real estate, music videos, commercials, we teach all about that. And if you want to go more into the narrative side with directing, storyboarding, acting, we teach all about that as well. And like I said at the beginning, we have been successfully selling this course with an $800 price tag for years, but for a limited time we are offering it to you guys for only $97. Our award-winning $800 online film course is yours for only $97. So, as you're making your projects and as you're making your films, choose a color palette that you would like to follow and establish good and bad colors, or even just significant colors, or even communicate to the audience by removing saturation in your color. Just determine all of this beforehand and you will be shocked how you can subconsciously send messages to the audience just by color. So I hope this video has really helped you guys out. To learn more, click the link in the description below and learn all the skills that you need to succeed.
Çok fazla otel, çok az zaman. Doğru olan.
تمام، هذا بالنسبة للبرنامج أو للفيديو الأول. هذا هو الفيديو الثاني اللي بوجهكم إياه، خلينا نشوفه مع بعض.
Hey guys, Justice here with tomorrowsfilmmakers.com, the largest online film academy in the world, and today we're going to be talking about cinematic composition. Now, composition is a fancy term for what is in the frame and where is it located. And it might sound simple, but a certain frame can be much more appealing to a viewer than others, and also much more cinematic. Now, inside our full course, we have a 6-hour-long cinematography course taught by Chris Kimlin, who has been the director of photography on many different feature films, and he takes you in depth on everything you need to know about cinematography. Now, we have been selling our film course successfully for years with an $800 price tag, and we've had over 4,000 students join, but right now we are doing something we have never done before, and we are running an insane sale of only $97. Our entire lifetime membership to our award-winning $800 film course for only $97. And I'm not even joking. If you want to take advantage of this crazy deal, you can check out our website in the link below and head on over to tomorrowsfilmmakers.com to learn more. But in this training, I'm going to give you guys my 8 steps that I take to make sure that I have great composition. And the great thing is you can do this with any camera that you have, a DSLR, cell phone, or pretty much anything. You don't need to buy some expensive lights or a Ronin S or an expensive lens to get more cinematic images. All you have to do is watch this video and apply these steps to your filmmaking. Now, the first rule that all of you guys need to apply is the rule of thirds. Now, the rule of thirds is a very well-known technique in the filmmaking world that you might be familiar with, but you also might not be using it properly. In a nutshell, it is scientifically proven that our eyes are drawn to these 4 intersecting points of the frame. Not the direct center, but these 4 corners. So by placing our subject on those 4 corners, it looks very much appealing and much more cinematic to the audience. Watch any Hollywood movie and you will notice that the main subjects are almost always on one of these intersecting points. Now, the center of the frame is always reserved for subjects with authority. If your subject is teaching or has more authority, you can put them in the center of the frame. That's why all master classes and other teaching videos, including one like this, are always placed in the middle. It just automatically gives your subject more authority in whatever he's talking about and makes it look like this is the main subject and I need to be listening to this person. Now, if you have a subject looking into the camera but off to one side, it doesn't feel quite as compelling as if they're in the center of the frame. But if your subject is not doing that, always put them on the rule of thirds. For landscapes or horizons, place them on one of the 2 lines going across and you will have an appealing image. The great thing is pretty much all cameras have a rule of thirds overlay built in, so you can have the rule of thirds on the back of your camera to get great composition with whatever camera you have. Something as simple as placing your subject on the rule of thirds can completely change your image. Number 2 is balance. Inside your frame, you can have one side more heavy than the other and the audience can actually feel it. Like in interviews, if you have your subject to one side and also a picture frame on the same side as your subject, your image is going to start to feel unbalanced and very heavy to one side. And even if the audience doesn't know what feels wrong, they just know that something feels off. You can either move that picture frame to the other side or just add something to balance out the image, like a lamp. This looks much more balanced and much more cinematic. And when it comes to composition, I try to have something on the other side of my frame to balance out my subject at all times. And it doesn't have to be something huge, and it also doesn't need to be horizontal. It can also be balanced vertically or diagonally, whether it's a building, a statue, even a flower, something in the frame to balance the image, or your shot will start to look really heavy to one side. You can obviously apply this to interviews and talking head videos, but you can also apply this to weddings, real estate, and all other types of videos. It really doesn't matter, just make sure that you have balance in your frame. Number 3 is depth. You can create depth in many different ways, but one way is to shoot with a lower aperture. Not only will it make your image have more depth by blurring out the background, but it will also make it more cinematic and can also remove any distractions from your audience. This shot looks great, but you had no idea that there was something distracting in the background because we removed the distraction by shooting in a lower aperture. By blurring out the background, we create depth and separate our subject from the background. Another simple way to create depth is to simply pull your subject away from the background. It might seem simple, but I've seen many filmmakers film interviews up against a wall, giving your image absolutely no depth and it doesn't look cinematic. If I have to film an interview in a small room, I will inconvenience myself in order to have depth in my image. I'll push myself and the cameras as far in a corner as possible to bring my subject as far away from the background as possible. You can also add something interesting in the foreground to create depth, and by placing something in the foreground, we're able to not only show movement much easier, but it creates depth in our image and allows us to kind of shoot through it. It doesn't have to be anything large like a person or an object. It could be something small like leaves or plants or coming around from behind something as more of a reveal. We have our subject, the foreground, and the background creating depth. Number 4 is leading lines. These are simply natural lines in your composition that lead your audience to your subject. They can be found in everyday objects like hallways, landscapes, bridges, and they simply draw in your audience's attention to your subject. Now, they use leading lines in Hollywood all the time to bring attention to something. In USA's Mr. Robot, in this building, our subject always knows where he needs to go, and we as an audience know where he needs to go by the leading lines throughout the scene. But when our main character gets lost, what happens to those leading lines? They are gone. The character doesn't know where to go, and we as an audience don't know where he needs to go because there are no leading lines leading our eyes to the subject or the direction he should go. Something as simple as lines in the frame can lead our eyes towards a subject or away from the subject. So look for leading lines in your image to draw the attention of the audience. Some are very obvious like staircases or a handrail, but some can be even more subtle, like the top of a picnic table. The tablecloth works great, but removing the tablecloth so we have those lines on the top pointing towards our subject really make a difference. Number 5 is symmetry. As humans, we love order and we love to see something symmetrical. It looks appealing to us and very cinematic. Now, symmetry is everywhere. Windows, stairs, escalators, it is everywhere. Symmetry also doesn't take much effort to get. Looking at a person one way might look fine, but you might be able to just move the camera slightly to frame the shot in a way that's more symmetrical. This shot not only looks very symmetrical because of the building, but even has leading lines straight to our subject. All of this was done by barely moving the camera. So look around and find symmetry. Frame your shot and compose it properly to get the most natural and most cinematic project you've ever made. Number 6 is a dominant subject. If I critique a student's video, one of the main problems I see most often is that there is no dominant subject. You want to use all of these steps we just talked about to draw your audience towards the subject. But if the audience doesn't even know what the subject is, then you've completely failed in what you were trying to do. And having a dominant subject doesn't mean that you can't do a wide-angle shot and have to be close up on their face. It just means that when an audience looks at an image, they need to know exactly where their eyes need to go. They need to know exactly what they're supposed to be looking at. First thing is to fill the frame. Way too often people have empty space that is unnecessary. Now some people will say, oh, it's artistic. No, it's not. It's distracting. You can be artsy and not distracting. Having this as your main subject, but this is in your frame, this is not artsy. This is sloppy. And most of the time, it's just a simple mistake, and they don't fully fill the frame. So please, fill the frame and get rid of all unnecessary dead space. Number 2 is when you fill the frame, fill it with things that aren't distracting. If we have lots of empty dead space, I would frame it so that you remove some of the dead space. But if you needed to actually fill that frame, if we add something really bright or with movement that's going to be distracting, our audience is going to be confused. We have a dominant subject by shooting at a lower aperture, using symmetry and leading lines to bring attention to our subject and removing all dead space in the frame. Number 7 is headroom or leading room. Have you ever heard the filmmaking phrase, hey, give them some breathing room? This is what they mean. First is headroom. This is the space from the top of the frame to the top of your subject's head. In an interview, you typically want to have your subject's eyes about 2/3 from the top of the frame, and this means that you want to have some room above their head. You don't want their head to be all the way at the top of the frame, and on the flip side, you don't want there to be tons of empty space above their head. Now, there isn't a hard and fast rule to this because all interviews are different, and I've had interviews with people with giant hair, and so you have to determine if you want to have all of the hair in the frame or cut off some of the hair, but it's best to keep their eyes on the top line in the rule of thirds. Now, leading room or looking room is the exact same thing, except it's with the direction your subject is looking. Whatever way they are looking, you want to give them looking room. And just like with headroom, having their eyes about 2/3 of the frame, you would want to give your subject about 2/3 of the frame to look into. The basic rule is you want more room in front of your subject than behind them. And this is why with a lot of interviews, whatever way your subject is facing, they will place their eyes on the corresponding intersecting point on the rule of thirds. This will give them the perfect headroom and leading room.
I love Envato Elements. I love Envato Elements because not only does it inspire me.
And of course, this doesn't have to be with interviews. Any shot or conversation that takes place, you want to give them headroom and looking room. And you would also want to do this when your subject is moving. You want to anticipate the movement without just reacting to it. If a subject moves, you want to move with them with the same amount of looking room as if you weren't moving. You wouldn't want to react late and it look like the subject is almost pushing the frame or forcing the movement. Leading room and headroom should always be used unless number 8 is actually one of my favorites, and it is to break the rules. And I know we just talked about how important it is to keep some of these rules, and I'm not saying to break them for no reason, but it is very cinematic to break the rules for a specific purpose. Now, each of these rules communicates something. So to break the rules will also communicate something else. So if you break the rule, make sure it is communicating what you intended it to communicate. The King's Speech is a perfect example. It's about a man who is soon to become king, but he has a stutter. This person, who should be the most powerful person in the film, he should be in the center of the frame and dominate every scene he's about to be king, is so scared to death when he meets his speech therapist. And this is because he's embarrassed by what he has. They purposefully film him with a crazy amount of headroom to show just how small and insignificant he feels. Then whenever they have a conversation, they give him no looking room at all to again give us the feeling of awkwardness. When he finally gains the courage, they give him looking room and they give him headroom to show that everything is back to normal. This rule was broken purposefully. One of my favorite films when it comes to composition is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Starting out, our main character is depressed and he's a loser, and at the beginning of the film they almost frame him out of the shot, breaking the rule of thirds by placing him at the very bottom or at the very edge of the screen. But at the end of the film, our hero is placed in the center to show progression, is to show his character development, and the contrast of these two shots is crazy, and all of it communicates a message. So as you can see, composition isn't just one step or one simple thing you can do. It's a series of steps that bring the audience's attention to our main subject, because that is our goal, to show our audience exactly where we. But also, like we just showed you, sticking to the rules 100% can ruin creativity. And just like with all rules, they can be broken, but they must have a reason to be broken. If our subject was framed like this, but he had his life completely in order, it would feel distracting and unnecessary. So every single shot tells a story. Where you place your subject in the frame tells a story. Be purposeful with your composition, and by taking these 8 steps, you are guaranteed to boost the production value of your projects and achieve cinematic results. So I hope that this video has really helped you guys out. Again, if you'd like to learn every single aspect of filmmaking, be sure to check out our website at tomorrowsfilmmakers.com.
تعالوا ناخذ بريك، ناخذ لنا شوية بريك ونرجع نكمل. السلام عليكم. خلينا نرجع مرة ثانية على الدرس، نشوف نحن وين كنا. هلا حناخذ الدرس على عبارة عن الأوديو أو عن الصوت. سوي شير.
Hey guys, Justice here with Tomorrow'sFilmmakers.com, the largest online film academy in the world, and today we're talking about one of the most important things in your filmmaking career, and that is going to set you apart from all other filmmakers, and that is audio. Now, some people say that audio is half of video, but I would say that it's even more important than that, and I'll tell you why. As humans, we will forgive not so good looking video if the audio still sounds really good. But if the video quality is really good, but the audio quality is really bad, we are going to click off of that immediately. That's why if you're ever watching Netflix and your internet starts
شايفين الفرق بين الأوديو كيف كان كيف صار؟
to lag, Netflix will automatically throttle the video quality before it ever touches the audio quality, because audio is that important. And since audio is that important, inside our full academy we have an entire cinema course just about audio. Inside that course, you'll learn all about what microphones you need to buy, how to mic different people in different situations, how to hide a mic in different types of clothing, and even how to set up all your audio on set. You can learn more about them inside our full course at Tomorrow'sFilmmakers.com. We have over 1,000 training videos and over 100 hours of content on every single aspect of filmmaking. We have had over 10,000 students join our full academy, and they are loving it. Now, right now, we are doing something we have never done before, and we are running an insane sale of only $97. Our entire lifetime membership to our award-winning $800 film course for only $97. So if you want to take advantage of this crazy deal, you can check out our website in the link below and head on over to tomorrowsfilmmakers.com to learn more. But today I want to give you guys the 8 steps that you need to take to improve the audio in your films. So instead of making audio an afterthought, take these 8 steps and you will be shocked at the difference that it makes. Step number 1 might sound simple, but you would not believe how many people don't do this, okay? Step number 1 is to get the microphone as close as possible without getting the microphone in the frame. If the top of the frame is here, but your microphone is way up here, you're just wasting precious space that you can get your microphone closer to the subject. Because the truth is, whenever the microphone gets closer to the subject, it's almost like having a volume dial for the background noise. Whenever the microphone is farther away, the entire audio has to be boosted just to keep the same decibels, resulting in a much louder background noise. But whenever it is close to the subject, the microphone gain can be turned way down because it's only needing to pick up what is right in front of it, resulting in a lot less background noise. That's why we never, and I mean never, recommend using a microphone on top of your camera for recording interviews and voices. It's a great source of audio if that is all you have, or if you're just trying to get kind of the noise around, but we would highly recommend putting a microphone over your subject and getting it as close as possible. So whenever you're putting your microphone over your subject, what I see most people do is take the microphone, raise it up, and point it at the subject. I mean, it'll work, but you're way too far away. So with every single shoot, what I will do is I will set the frame exactly how I have it. I will purposefully bring the microphone all the way into the frame and then slowly raise it until the camera operator tells me that it's out of frame. And if you're the camera operator as well, just keep slowly raising it and going back and checking your camera until it's out of frame. And then look at the microphone placement. You can't see the microphone, but look where it is. It looks like it's about to touch the person's head. That's because you want the microphone as close to the subject as possible without getting it in the frame. And if you have a wider frame, that's all right. Just bring the microphone about an inch out of the frame, and this will improve your audio drastically. So get that microphone as close to your subject as possible. And step number 2 goes right along with step number 1, and that is mic placement. Now, we already talked about placing the microphone 1 inch out of the frame, but you don't want to place the microphone below your subject unless you absolutely have to. By placing your microphone underneath the subject, you're still getting his audio, but you're also recording everything that happens above your subject, which is usually much noisier than what happens below your subject. You'll have air conditioners, ceiling fans, airplanes, whatever it is, you will be capturing audio of it because you have your microphone pointed directly at it. So only do that when absolutely necessary. So if the microphone is above your subject, you can either have someone like a boom operator holding the microphone, or you can use what I prefer, and that is a C-stand with a boom cradle. This is basically a little cradle that you can put on a C-stand, and your boom pole will just cradle inside of it. This is what I use personally, but whatever you need to do, just make it happen and get that microphone over your subject. Now, once it is overhead, you want the microphone to be pointed about 3 to 5 inches in front of your subject's mouth. A lot of beginning filmmakers I will see trying to point the microphone directly at the top of their head, or they'll try to angle it so it's pointing right into their mouth. But just imagine the words coming out of their mouth and going upward. You want to point the microphone about 3 to 5 inches in front, where you'll capture the cleanest audio. With lapel microphones, you again want the microphone to be as close to your subject's mouth as possible. If you don't care about hiding the microphone, place it around their shirt collar, and if they're wearing a button-up shirt, just place it as close to the middle button as possible. If they have a tie, you can easily clip it to their tie, but never just clip it to their shirt. Not only does this look really horrible, but it will most likely ruin their shirt by leaving a permanent pinch mark. Now, if you need to hide the lapel mic, there are many different ways of doing this, but the most common way is to just tape it right under their shirt. Now, you can just use a piece of tape and tape it to their shirt, but we would recommend creating a lapel triangle mount with that tape. Now, there are so many different variations of this, but what you want to do is you want to take a piece of gaff tape, split it down the middle, and then you pretty much just fold it like you're either folding a flag or a paper football. With the sticky side up, you take the top corner, fold it down, then take that same corner, fold it down, and you just keep folding it until you have a triangle. Take the other piece, do the exact same thing until you have 2 identical triangles with the sticky side on the outside, and if they're different sizes, that's perfectly fine. You then sandwich them together with the microphone in the middle, being careful not to cover the actual mic capsule. Then you can put that on your subject, and it will not only keep the microphone in place, but it will also keep the subject's shirt from brushing up against it and ruining the audio. Taping the microphone directly to their shirt will work, but you do run the risk of the microphone, moving around underneath their shirt and you getting all that rustling sound. You can also hide lapel mics in a tie by having it barely stick out of the bottom of the knot, or even taping it underneath the shirt collar on one side. This one does work, but if they turn their head and start talking the other direction, you can definitely hear that their voice gets quieter, so the best thing to do is keep the microphone centered with their body. I've even seen people hide microphones in people's hair so that there's nothing visible on their shirt. Now, this is typically used for like stage plays and theater, but I have seen it a few times in kids shows, and I personally would suggest not doing that because if it's seen, it's impossible not to stare at it the entire time. Also, don't forget that whenever you're taping a lapel to your subject, always tape an extra loop with the cord right underneath the microphone. Now, this will give you just a little bit of give on that cord if for some reason the wire gets pulled or the subject stretches weird and it pulls the cord. If we were to tape the microphone to our subject really tight.
طبعا هون عم يحكي لنا كيف ممكن نحن نخفي الميكروفون. مبدئيا حننهي اليوم درسنا لهذا الحد، وإن شاء الله نكمل بعدين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.